Learn to speak English like a native. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Join my VIP program. Learn English with me. Improve your English. Speak English powerfully. Another walk and talk today. It is Saturday, around 1 o'clock, 1 in the afternoon in Japan. It is a bright and sunny summer day. No clouds. I see no clouds. Blue sky. I am walking next to the very busy road that goes north and south in the city. I'm in the south part of the city. I am walking north to Namba Station as usual. Today, I'm a little late, so I'm not going to take the small side streets and get lost again. I'm just going to walk along the busy main street that goes directly to the station, which means you will probably hear more background noises during today's walk and talk. It is Saturday today, but I'm going to work. So, maybe you want to be a freelancer, right? A freelancer is someone who is self-employed. That's what Robert Kiyosaki, Mr. Rich Dad, calls freelancers, self-employed. But certain professionals are also self-employed. Doctors, lawyers, accountants. Many of them are independent. Some are employees, work for big companies, of course, or hospitals or something. But many dentists, therapists, designers, coders, meaning programmers. There's lots of different skills and professions where people can be self-employed. And it's somewhere between. Self-employed is kind of between being an employee, where you are not independent at all, right? You're working for someone else. They give you a paycheck. They tell you what to do. They tell you your hours. They decide how much you get paid. Not a lot of freedom. And then an entrepreneur on the other side, a business owner, where you start and own and run your own business, where you have to do everything. You make all the decisions. You are completely free and independent. That's the good side. But you're also completely responsible, which is the challenge. Now, in between is something called self-employment. There are different kinds of self-employment. So all those professions I just mentioned, we can kind of imagine, right? The different levels of self-employment, whether it's a freelancer or a dentist, let's say. But the key thing is that they're quite independent, right? So they're their own boss, basically. But as I've mentioned in a previous talk, they have to still work for their pay. Meaning, they're trading, they're getting paid for their time. They're trading time for money. If they're not actually working, they're not making money. Whereas a business owner, an entrepreneur, if they make their business into a good system, they can make money when they're sleeping. They can make money when they're on vacation. They can make money when they're traveling. That's the difference. And as I've said before, self-employment is great for many people. Many people are not quite ready for the full entrepreneur challenge because, again, it is challenging. It's challenging because you got to do everything. Everything. You're responsible for everything. Nobody's going to tell you anything. Whereas as a self-employed person, you kind of get a lot more freedom and independence, but there's also a little more structure, right? You're working in a a profession that you probably already know. Most people become self-employed after being employees. So maybe, let's say an accountant. Maybe an accountant could come out of school, first work for a company doing accounting, get experience, make connections, and then they might decide to become independent. Maybe they get downsized. That means basically their job gets cut. They're not fired. Fired's different. Fired means, you know what fired means. It means they say goodbye. They cut your job. They cut you. They don't cut your job. They cut you because they don't like you for some reason. Downsize means usually they're cutting expenses. It means they cut your position, right? They don't replace you. They're just trying to cut costs. Maybe you're doing a good job. Maybe they like you, but this is very common, especially big companies, this downsizing, where people think they have a safe job and seems like the company's big and stable and their boss likes them, they do a good job, but they lose their job anyway because the company decides we're going to cut all these expenses, and it's just kind of like bad luck sometimes. Sometimes it's just bad luck. You get downsized, you get cut. Simply because they decide, this department must cut their budget, right? Something like that. So a lot of times people become freelancers because of that, which is not a fun way to do it. It's much more high stress. It's better when you choose, when you decide to do it and you decide when to do it. But whatever the reason, a lot of people, they become self-employed after they are working a job. They get the job experience. They know their job well. So again, using our accountants as an example, they become quite good at accounting. Maybe they specialize in some kind of accounting, a certain kind of business, or a certain size of business. They make connections. And so then it's fairly easy for them to go and become kind of independent. Sometimes they do it part-time first. So they'll continue working their job at their big company. But then in their extra time, maybe they help people with taxes. Maybe they help small businesses with their accounting. What typically happens is the side business starts to grow because, they're doing a good job, they're making more connections, and eventually the side business is doing very well, and they're starting to have too much work, they're working a job, and the side business is doing well as an accountant, as a freelancer. And so they finally say, well, I'm just going to be a freelancer, and they quit the job, and they continue becoming a freelancer, being a freelancer. It's a really good way to go for a lot of people, I think. Because it also has the safety of you're still working in your same profession, right? So if your freelancing job, if you get a little stressed, if it's not doing well, it's fairly easy then to jump back and get another job with another company, because you're still doing the same skills. You're still doing the same job. So for this reason and others, for many people, the self-employed way is actually quite good. Robert Kiyosaki, he has a book about this, about the different kinds of way to make, being a business owner, being a self-employed, employed, investor, whatever. I think he's a little too negative about the self-employed. I understand why, because at least in the United States, for tax reasons, self-employed, the benefits for taxes are not as good. It's better to be a business owner. The potential to make lots of money and be rich is much better for a full business owner, for sure. But, many of us don't care about that. We just want enough to have a comfortable life and be free. And so I think that actually the choice of self-employed is quite good. This is why traditionally in many cultures, right, many countries, parents encourage their children to be doctors, lawyers, dentists, accountants, even sometimes engineers, because those professions are very flexible, and they can pay well, of course. But they're also very flexible, meaning that you could just be an employee, you could be any of those things and just work for someone else. But you can also be self-employed. You could also be very independent. Passing the train track. And I've used my brother-in-law as an example. He's an animal doctor, which is called a veterinarian. And I have a cousin, my cousin Samantha, who's also a veterinarian. And see, they're a perfect example because my cousin, she's younger, right? She just got out of vet school, I don't know, a couple years ago. So she's an employee. She just looked for a job, and she got a job at some animal hospital somewhere because she doesn't really know much about business, right? She knows about taking care of animals, but she doesn't know a lot about business. She just wanted to get out of school and start making some money and maybe even learn some more skills, get more experience. So for her, being an employee, at least for now, is the best choice. Whereas my brother-in-law is older, more experienced. He's very much he started as kind of self-employed, where he became a partner in an animal hospital. And then now he's really more even moved into being a business owner, where he's hired a lot of other veterinarians, so he still gets paid even when he's not working. But he still works too, so he still gets paid directly when he does surgery or something. So he's self-employed, and he's also a business owner. So it's quite flexible. This is why I think these professions have been popular and they're seen as high status, because there is the potential to make good money, and there's the potential for a lot of freedom and a lot of flexibility. Now, more recently, I would say that IT, especially on the programming side, coding, programmers usually call themselves coders. So coding is a great profession that also, it's a great skill that gives the same kind of flexibility. You can go work for Apple or Google or some huge company, so you can be an employee for sure, if that's what you want. But you can also, with those coding skills, you could be self-employed, a freelancer, where, I don't know, you could just get on different freelancer websites and people will hire you to, write programs for their websites or their businesses or whatever. So you'd be kind of self-employed. You get paid per job or per hour. Or you could even start your own business, like create your own app or your own software or something like that, your own company. And if you could go really big if you wanted to do something like, Uber or some other really large company and get investors to invest in your company. So all of these are possible. So there, that's why those are popular, I understand. And so for some people, because I've been asked on Twitter, what about doctors? What about dentists? Yeah, it's not a bad choice. Really, it's not bad. The problem with those professions, the medical professions in America, is that you get a huge debt. I mean, the amount of debt. My cousin, for example, who's the veterinarian, it's unbelievable how much money she borrowed to go through veterinarian school. Medical doctors in America, same problem. So they come out owing huge amounts of money. It's just not as good a deal anymore in the United States. Now, I don't know about other countries, but in America, I think, IT and programming and coding is much better. You don't even need to go to college for this. You can teach yourself this online. If you're good, you will get jobs, or you can be a great freelancer, or you can start your own business. It's just the skill. You just got to be good at what you do. The degree is not so important. So instead of wasting 4 or more years getting a degree in computer science where you're going to take a lot of other classes that are kind of nonsense. You could just learn how to code, teach yourself the code. There are lots of courses and trainings online you can do for free or for cheap, and you can teach yourself that skill, and then you will have an income for sure. I hope the noise isn't too loud for you on this walk and talk. As I said, I am walking along the main big road. It's 6 lanes of traffic right next to me. But this is the straight, direct way for me to get to the coffee shop and do some work. I got to plan tonight's Effortless English show, which is our book club. We are finishing chapter 1 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which teaches us how do the rich think? How do rich people think? How do they act? What are their strategies? And how are they different from everybody else, from the middle class and the poor? Or another way to look at it is, what mistakes do the poor and the middle class make? Because the poor and the middle class, what he's saying in the book, the poor and the middle class have mistaken ideas about money. That the poor and the middle class don't really understand what money is and how it works. And that's why they must work and be wage slaves. That's why they are in many ways slaves to money. That's why in many ways they're stressed out about money all the time, unhappy about money. And that's what we want to avoid. So Robert Kiyosaki is trying to teach us, really at the high level, the big strategic level, meaning the philosophy level, how to change our thinking about money, to think like the rich. And that's the very first and maybe most important step to being rich. Whatever rich means to you. Like I said, for me, rich means freedom. Freedom, financial freedom, the freedom to live how I want. The freedom to live how you want, to be the master of your own schedule, the master of your own time. I mean, that's a big part of it. In many ways, I see rich and wealthy. I measure it more in time than money. For me, if someone has to work 90 hours a week doing something they don't like, I don't care how much money they make. They're not free. And therefore, I don't think they're rich. You know, if they're slaving away and working, and they make $10 million every year, but they're unhappy, they're exhausted, they have no time for their family, no time for their children, their health's not good, they have no time to slow down and enjoy the beauty of life. Are they really rich? I mean, only if you're measuring it with numbers. I don't think they are. On the other hand, you know, I've met monks, sadhus. Sadhus are kind of like Hindu monks, holy men. They go out and they basically have nothing. I mean, really nothing. They've got a robe, they got their clothes, they got a little bag. That's about all. They meditate all day, they walk around. You know, monks can be the same. They live very, very, very simple lives. Now, not all people are happy doing that, but some of them are very happy. Some of them are very, very free, and they have almost nothing, but they need almost nothing. That's why they're free. It's the Thoreau quote again, right? That I mentioned in the recent Effortless English show. I agree with Thoreau that in many ways, you're rich depending on how much or how little you need to be happy. if you need only a very simple life, it's easy to be rich. If you need a Ferrari and a $20 million house and to be famous and to have Louis Vuitton bags and Gucci and eat at 3-star Michelin restaurants every night, well, then it's a lot harder to be rich. Then you gotta make lots and lots and lots of money. Then you, I think, in many ways, you again become the slave of money because your focus all the time is on more money, more money, more money, more money. I just don't think that's a great way to measure being rich. So we're looking for the middle way. The middle way for most of us. It means we don't avoid money. We don't get stressed out about money, right? Because we don't have enough, because we don't understand how it works, because we can't make enough, so that we're always struggling. But on the other hand, we also don't become obsessed with money, where in a different way we become the slaves to it because we need more, never ending. There's a middle way in between where we find our baseline, live as simply as we can, happily, and we understand how money works, like what we're going to learn with Robert Kiyosaki, and yet we find a way to make money and to make more money that is enjoyable and meaningful for us. And we have more money coming in than we need, which gives us extra, and with that extra we can invest, or we can give it away to people, we can do anything we want, and in that middle way we're free and relaxed, and now we are the masters of money. Money is not the master of us. We are truly free, financially free, spiritually free, mentally and emotionally free. Speaking of simplicity, children. Another thing I love about children, they're simple. They're curious, they're alive. We can learn a lot from them. We can. Today I went to my nephew, Masanori, the bug boy. I went to his school today. They had a festival at his school, which was quite interesting. So all the kids, I don't know, like each class, they made some games, right? Like one had bowling. They made them from water bottles, and then you had to bowl with this little ball, like a rubber ball. And another class had all these different games. And the idea was that the parents would come, and the parents go from class to class and play the games. And the kids also, different classes, they go to class and they play all the different games. So we walk in there, and it's chaos, right? Because there's kids running in every direction. And it just seems like children never talk in a normal voice. They're always screaming, right? Because they're always excited about everything, all the time. So there's kids screaming and running around in every direction. We finally go up into my nephew's room, and there's this one little girl who's like the announcer. She's supposed to be the announcer, so she's trying to announce to all the children and parents to come into their class and play the game. And she's screaming welcome in Japanese, which is well, it's one kind of welcome. You hear it in restaurants. Irashaimase! 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 And she's got this super high, loud voice. And it's the kind of voice that's just like cutting through my ears, right? It is so, I don't know what it is, but children's voices, they're so small, but their voices can be so big and loud, and it's like, even though it's super loud and kids are running and screaming and jumping around everywhere, but this one little girl's voice, Irashaimase, is just like cutting through all of the rest of the noise right through my ears, and every time she said it, it's kind of, like I could feel all the muscles in my body would kind of move suddenly. Like, oh my God. And of course I find out she's one of my nephew's friends. But there's just that that intense energy, right? So then we go in there, and of course I grab the ball, I do the bowling game and hit it, and they're all jumping around, yeah, because I hit a couple of the bottles. But, it's so great because you look at them, they're so excited and enthusiastic about the smallest things in life. About this silly little game that they made from water bottles. About a caterpillar or a bug. Or some little animal they see. Or a little plant. We don't need that much, really. We really don't. The kids understand it. And we get programmed as we get older to think that, oh, no, it's not enough to have just a car. I've got to have the super expensive fast car so that everybody looks at me and thinks I'm great. Or at least, I think maybe for a lot of us, it's not that. I think for a lot of people, it's not really so much they want to look better than everyone else. It's more they're afraid to look like they're worse than everyone else. It's like they're afraid to have the ugliest, cheapest car. They're afraid to live in the uglier, smaller, cheaper place because they're worried about the criticism from, I don't know, family, friends, I don't know. But I think that's what a lot of it. Clothes, too. Like they're afraid, if I wear the junky old clothes, people will think badly of me. And that's a prison. That's a prison that will make you a slave. The kids have the right idea. They don't care about any of that stuff. Until they start watching TV and media, then they do start to care as they get a little bit older. But when they're really little, they don't care about any of that at all. They're just excited about life. They're excited about every little thing, and it's usually is something little, small that they just get crazy about. This is why I love my nephew so much, because for him it's always some bug or some plant. My little niece, who's super cute too, she just likes songs, so she just loves to sing little songs, and she likes to do little dances and things, and she likes me just to chase her around, and she likes to chase me around. I think a lot of it is just being aware. I'm noticing again the small things, the little things, and enjoying those. I think that's a lot of it, that we have to learn to do that again. This is, again, about finding that baseline. And one of the powerful things about finding that baseline, because as I described in my car living experience, it wasn't just being free financially. That was not the only benefit. And, I can live cheaply. It was more than that. I also learned to appreciate and to notice all the small, wonderful things that maybe before I was too busy to focus on. So like taking a bath in the river in the summer next to the forest was fantastic. It's totally free, cost no money at all. It was a great experience. It's still, here I'm doing a podcast about it, talking about it. So obviously it was a very strong, positive memory. From that same summer, I remember playing a frisbee game. It's called Ultimate Frisbee. It's like soccer and frisbee combined in American football. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, I remember every week I would play with some friends. Just in the evening, go to the park, run around, play that game. Again, free, totally free. So much fun. And afterwards I'd go take my little bath in the river and then go eat at this little cheap but good restaurant called the Taco Stand in Athens, Georgia. I had to go meet up with some of the guys, some friends, and eat there. Get a inexpensive burrito. It was just those kind of things through the whole summer. Like I said, it felt like being a kid again and being out of school. Instead of out of school, I was out of work. But it was the same freedom. It's just I was free from morning to night. and just enjoying life, going for walks, swimming a little bit, playing with my dog, meeting up with friends, reading a book in a coffee shop. Simple, simple, simple. None of those things were expensive at all. And a very, very happy time. This is part of being rich, too. Being rich in time, being rich in experiences, being rich in awareness, being rich in appreciation, rich in gratitude for all the wonderful things we have. Yes, someone on Twitter recently sent me a tweet. Kind of got me thinking. It was something about basically life is tough, life is terrible. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's somebody who's having a hard time. So I tweeted back and kind of just, how is life hard? What's going on? What's, trying to find out. Maybe I can be encouraging or helpful. And this person just said, in general, life in general is hard. And I'm sure maybe they're having difficulty, but that's actually a crazy thing to say, I think, because life is easier than ever in all of human history. We live in the easiest, softest time ever. You want to know tough? Think about what life was like 1,000 years ago. Think about what life was like for humans 5,000, 10,000 years ago. No electricity, no cars, no big cement buildings. They had to hunt down their food every day. They had to search and gather food, wild food, deal with wild animals, deal with the cold and the rain and come on. The diseases. Of course, in a sense, in a very Buddhist sense, life, we all suffer. Suffer's unavoidable, part of life, because life's not permanent, So, yeah, life ends and there is pain in life. Yes, but it's crazy to say that's all there is, because that's certainly not true. And we live in a time of amazing abundance and ease. Life has never been easier for humans. The problem with that is not that life's so bad. The problem is we've become too weak. That all this easiness and abundance and convenience is making us lazy and weak and spoiled. So we live with all this great abundance and then we still complain. Oh, yeah, but everything's not completely easy. No, we got to toughen up. Our ancestors would be laughing at us. They would be laughing at us for complaining. And they would be right. They would be correct. Because they had it a whole lot tougher, and they still lived, and they still managed to have meaningful lives, and they built the foundation. Everything we enjoy now, all of this abundance is because of their work, and we should appreciate that too. We've got to get a little tougher. I think that's another value of the baseline, is to toughen up a little bit. No, you don't need more money necessarily. No, you don't need the newest version of everything. Yes, you can handle a little bit of inconvenience. You can. You can handle it. It's not that bad. Living in the car, people, so many people, they think it was crazy. It must have been terrible. Must have been so stressful. And it wasn't. It was fantastic. It was a little hot sometimes. A little hot at night. Georgia's a hot place. So yeah, but it cooled off in the evening. It wasn't horrible. It just could be a little bit humid and hot, a little uncomfortable, but I was safe. I was fine. Not a big deal. When I lived in my van in the winter, yeah, there were a few nights it got really cold, but I had a sleeping bag. Wasn't that bad. No worse than camping. You can handle much more than you think. And if you push yourself to do that, and you do it for a while, you'll get a little tougher. And then you'll realize, hey, this is fine. You'll actually start to appreciate it. And you'll realize all the things you thought you needed to be happy, you don't need a lot of them. All right, I'm going to stop and grab something to drink. It's a little hot. Speaking of hot, and then I'll be back for more. World Cup. World Cup has started. Russia with a big victory in the first game. Great to see the hosts get a victory. Sorry to Saudi Arabia, but, it's nice for the hosts to get a strong win. Seems like most people agree the best game so far. 3-3, Portugal and Spain. Of course, two of the top teams. Both have a chance to win the whole thing. All the Brazilians, the crazy Brazilians on my Twitter are sending me pictures. I've gotten a couple pictures now. A couple Brazilians have sent me their picture wearing their Brazilian team shirts, jerseys. The rest of you, come on. And of course, Brazil has a chance to win it every single time. And they certainly have a chance again this year. We'll see. Good luck, Brazil, as well. One of the things about sports, people criticize sports sometimes. I've even done it at times, where sports can be seen as a distraction, right, that make us passive. Oh, we're just watching the sport. We're not participating. Maybe it makes us, if we do it, we get too focused on it. Maybe it distracts us from what's important in our lives. Certainly a lot of people criticize these kind of sporting events because they think it distracts us from important political things. Bread and circuses, it's called. And it's true, there is an element of that. We have to be careful about that. But again, I'm a big believer in the middle way of things. Because on the other hand, I do know that these events, these kind of sporting events, sports teams can also bring us together. They can be a kind of bonding meaning making stronger connections. As like most things in life, you have to find the right balance, that middle way where whatever it is beneficial. If you do it too much, then it can be harmful and negative effects. And some things is not enough. Food's a great example. If you don't eat, you starve to death. If you eat too much, you become fat and unhealthy, and you die early and you're miserable. It's about finding the middle way of eating just the right amount and eating the right things. And I think we call them spectator sports. Spectator means watcher. Right, so a spectator sports are sports that you watch, right? We're not playing in the World Cup. I'm not playing soccer on the team in the World Cup. We're watching. I think that a certain amount of spectator sports, again, can be enjoyable entertainment. And in fact, really, with far fewer political messages, most movies and TV nowadays, good Lord, full of political messages. Whereas a clean sports game of just two teams playing, there's not a lot of room to talk about politics. They might talk about it after the game or before the game, but during the game, it's pretty much the pure game, usually. So in that sense, I think it's less political in terms of entertainment. And these kind of things, we can get enjoyment. We can get bonding with other people. We can kind of relax, let out a little bit of stress. In the right amounts, with the right attitude, I think it can be a very positive thing. And I think, too, also, if balanced with doing, because sports are also for doing. So yeah, you're sitting around on your butt all day. You watch lots of sports, but you never do any exercise. That's not a balance. But if you get out there and you're fit and you feel good, and then you also like watching some professional sports and you appreciate the athletes, I think it's great. And events like the World Cup can bring people together because everybody gets excited together. It's a shared experience. That's the nice thing about it. That's why I'm talking about the World Cup, especially because our Effortless English family is international, and this is a great, fun, international event. Even if your team's not in it, like my team's not in it, but it's still fun to watch. And it's still fun to join in with other people and enjoy the games together. You know, I think about this last winter. I was in Indiana visiting, and I was watching the college football championship game on TV. And the reason I was watching is my team was playing. University of Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs, go Dogs! They were playing against a very tough team from Alabama, our neighbor state, next to Georgia. And oh my God, it was a close game. It was a long game. It went to overtime. We say overtime, it's the same as extra time in soccer. But it was up and down, and like 1 minute I thought we won. I'm like, yeah! And then the next minute I think, oh no, we lost. Oh no! I'm screaming and jumping around. Oh my God! And then the next minute again, oh, we're gonna win! And I was sure we won. And the last play, the other team threw a pass, and Alabama won it. It was heartbreaking. It's terrible. But an incredible game. Really an incredible game. But the most fun for me was not actually the game. Was not actually because it was my team, my college team. The best part for me actually was enjoying it with my dad. Because my dad lives in Georgia still, and he is a huge Georgia Bulldog fan. Probably bigger than me. And I went there. I went to the university, but I think my dad's more of a fan. And so during the game, even though he was in Georgia at the time, I'm in Indiana watching it, but he was also super excited, so we're texting, just on our cell phones, texting back and forth. Yes, we're going to win. Oh no, we're going to lose. Oh, so it's kind of back and forth. And even though it was just text messages, it was this kind of fun bonding, this fun connection that we were sharing together. And a lot of men do this, especially men. Women do it too, I think, but men especially will bond with sports, friends, right? They'll get together, watch the game together. And so with my dad, the Georgia Bulldog football team is a great bonding experience for us. During football season, which starts in the fall in America, every week we discuss the games and discuss how Georgia's doing and how's the new coach. The new coach is great, by the way. The players change each year, especially in college. Some graduate, new ones come in. It's a lot of fun. So I've got plenty of time, so it doesn't distract me too much. I enjoy that part of it. Now, I don't watch sports constantly, every single day. In fact, most of the year I don't even watch sports at all. But college football I like. And also because this is true in soccer. I know, and this is one of the reasons soccer is popular, is that many of the teams have a very specific local or national identity and connection. So for me, that's why I like college football, and that's why in America college football is just as big as professional. just as big, just as popular. And in the Southeast, where I'm from, the South part of America, college football's bigger. College football is a kind of religion. I did a whole VIP lesson about this topic. You learn some interesting stuff in that lesson and some interesting vocabulary. So, what I love about it, and the reason I think it's so popular, especially in the South, is that there are real connections. So, for example, in American baseball, the professional American baseball, I don't really have a team because I just don't feel any real connection. I moved around a lot as a kid. Never developed a connection, with like a local team. But the Georgia Bulldogs, I went to the University of Georgia, so that's part of my life, part of my history. I went to undergraduate and to grad school there. And then I lived in the town, Athens, Georgia. That's where the university is. I lived in Athens, Georgia for 13, almost 14 years. And it was, my first years as an adult had a strong influence on me. A lot of great memories, a lot of great experiences. So I have a real connection to Georgia, to the University of Georgia. So when I'm watching the Georgia Bulldogs play, it's not just some random team. They represent, part of my history, part of my background, part of my life. And I know this can be true with soccer clubs where they represent a city or even certain neighborhoods. I think that in the Premier League in England, London's got several teams, and these teams are associated with, connected to even certain parts of London or certain classes, right? Working class, or this other one maybe is more kind of upper class, or there can be really strong local connections with some of the teams that actually bring together people in the neighborhood or in a whole city, or with the World Cup in a whole country. The Brazilians are maybe the best example of this. We all know they're crazy about their soccer team, and for a good reason. They've got one of the best in the world. And every World Cup, the whole nation of Brazil comes together, and even though they have their problems like everybody else, but it creates a kind of unity, which I think that's the good part of it. That's the good part of it. As long as we don't ignore other important parts of life and use it as too much of a distraction, I think that these spectator sports can be great, especially when they have some kind of meaningful connection for us. It might just be that your friends share support for one team, even if it's not local, but it sort of brings your friends together, brings you all together. You enjoy the supporting the team together. Or some families like my dad and I, right? University of Georgia. He became a fan when I went to the university. I went there. Before, he didn't care. But when I went to the University of Georgia, he got really interested in the university and the sports. And at UGA, University of Georgia, it's all about college football. They have other sports. They've got a basketball team. They've got other teams. But honestly, it's the football team that's the big one. And so my dad became very interested in it, and now he's got Georgia Bulldog hats, he's got Georgia Bulldog shirts, I think he's probably got some red Georgia Bulldog pants. He had a golf cart. He plays golf a lot, and he lived next to a golf course, and he used to have an electric golf cart, like a little car, and it was red, and it had the Georgia Bulldog symbol on it. I think his golf bag has the Georgia Bulldog colors. He's crazy about Georgia Bulldogs. And that's really, it's great. It's a fun way to connect, right? Because it's not political. That's the great thing about it. That's what's so terrible when sometimes, like, some of the professional athletes in the United States, some of them are making some political statements sometimes, and it's hurting their sports a lot. It's because people don't like it. Because sports have traditionally been a way for people of all different kinds and all different politics and different countries even, and different beliefs to come together peacefully and maybe even support the same team. So kind of a force for unity. So when these guys, like LeBron James, honestly, I don't like him. And that's why I don't like him. Because he starts making all these political statements. Doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. He's dividing people. He's just a basketball player. We don't care about his political beliefs. What does he know? He knows nothing. He's good at shooting a ball into a hoop, and that's it. So I really don't like that, and the damage is being done to these professional sports. A lot of fans are leaving these professional sports, and I think it's another reason the college sports in America are becoming even bigger. Because in the college sports, the coaches won't let the players do these political things. I mean, they can do what they want when they're in their personal time, but before the games, during the games, when they're representing the team, they can't do any of that, just like at any job. And I think that's good. So you get the unity. So in Georgia, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're, what your politics are. It doesn't matter what your race is. Your religion doesn't matter. Georgia Bulldogs, lots of people love them. Other people like Georgia Tech are rivals, so that's where that's where there's no unity. A lot of my friends went to the Georgia Tech, which is one of our rivals. Another rival's Florida, but they're in another state. So the unity, the bonding of sports, I think is great. So that's why I think we should all just enjoy the World Cup. Let's relax and enjoy the World Cup together. And hey, if your team loses, don't get too upset about it. It's going to happen. Most of the teams are not going to make it to the finals. It's just basic math. Only 2 teams make it to the finals, and only one will win. Everybody else is going to get knocked out at some point. So there's no point in getting upset. It's more about the unity and the excitement and enjoying the art of the game. Enjoying the competition and enjoying the shared experience, of all these teams and different countries and all different kinds of people coming together and having a good, enjoyable competition. So, if you're not interested in the World Cup, it's fine. No problem. But if you are, tweet me your ideas about the World Cup. Don't ask me questions about soccer because I don't know. You should be teaching me. I'm an American. I don't know much about soccer. You guys should be educating me about soccer. You're the experts. I'll teach you about American football this fall. So, about the end of August. We'll be getting close to the start. I'll probably focus on college football. I'll teach you guys the rules of college football, and I'll talk about my team, and I'll talk a lot. I can teach you about American football. But right now, it's your job to teach me about soccer. I know a few of the famous players. I certainly know the basic rules. I understand the games, watching them, but honestly, I don't really know the strategies or the tactics. Like I said, I only know the most famous players, so I'm sure there are a lot of good players I don't know. I never heard their names. I don't even know which national teams are the best, except the really famous ones. I know Germany, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, Argentina. Other than that, I know there are other good teams. And of course, some years it changes, so I don't know. The other really strong teams, I'm not sure. So you all can teach me. Teach me about soccer. Teach me about the World Cup. And finally, my Instagram challenge to you. Nobody's done it yet. On Twitter, 2 people have done it. 2 Brazilians. Send me a picture wearing your team shirt, your team jersey, the team you're supporting. It doesn't have to be your country. If your country's not in the World Cup, doesn't matter. You can support another team. Send me a picture wearing a selfie, wearing your team jersey for the World Cup. Send it to my Twitter or to my Instagram. My Instagram is Effortless English Club. Effortless English Club. Let's enjoy the World Cup. I'll be back for another walk and talk. Maybe tomorrow. Might skip tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. We have family visiting us. If I have time, I'll do one tomorrow, but otherwise, I'll do it on Monday. Have a great weekend. Lots of love to you. Join my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Bye.